Hey there. I'm inviting you to visit SheriKayhoff.com. That's SheriKayehOff.com for a new free advanced masterclass because you want to use your gifts, make money, and make a difference with your business while living with more ease, flow, and joy. In this masterclass, you'll learn how to measure your success in business by the amount of ease, flow, and joy you experience in your business. You'll design your business around your lifestyle instead of your lifestyle around your business. You'll transform your life and your business. You'll discover how to make changes in your vision and your biz model to earn the income you really want and help the people you want without the stress and constant hustle. You'll develop and strengthen your intuition in your business to help you choose the best strategies, learn why people fail in business and how you can overcome it. You'll also find out the best way to focus on marketing, and you'll discover that something extra. So head on over to Sheri Kayhoff, SheriKayehOff.com, and you'll scroll down and there right in the middle of the page, it'll say Biz Growth Masterclass, and you want to sign up for that. And you will absolutely love it. Hello. This is Sheri K. Hoff from the Sheri K. Hoff Show, the show for living joyfully in your business and your life. I have a fantastic guest here with me today, but first I want to let you know that if you want some cool free gifts from me, you can stop by SheriKayhoff.com, SheriKayehOff.com. So let me tell you about my amazing guest. After spending too many years in corporate America, Lorraine said goodbye to the bureaucracy, glass ceilings, and bad coffee to follow her passion helping small business owners succeed. Today, the successful entrepreneur, author, professional speaker, and host of the marketing podcast, More Than a Few Words, brings creative ideas, practical tips, and decades of real-world experience to every conversation. As the founder of the Digital Toolbox Club, she helps business owners use internet marketing to grow. And in her spare time, she loves to travel and take photos. You can see her photos at LorraineBall.com. That's LorraineBall.com. Welcome, Lorraine. I'm so thrilled you're here, and we have to go on a trip together. I'm a travel girl too, and now that things are opening up.
Absolutely. It is so nice to be here and do this virtually. And who knows, maybe someday I'll travel to your neck of the woods and we can do it in person.
Oh, it'd be so much fun. I would love that. I'd love to do a Facebook Live together, sitting with each other. It could be so much fun.
Absolutely.
So I know one of your specialties, and you really stress the importance with business owners, is that they do a SWOT analysis on their business. So that's intriguing to me because it's been around for a while. So tell me your take on it and how you use it with your business owners.
So it's funny because it has been around for a while. I mean, I was doing SWOT analysis back in my corporate days, decades ago. But I often find that a lot of business owners who are new to business, or maybe they've been around a while and kind of did not have the formal training, have never done the analysis. And so I really like it because it forces you to look objectively inside and outside, because your business is going to be impacted both by things you can control and things you can't. And what a SWOT matrix really does is it allows you to see where those things kind of intersect and either work together or create real chaos.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's been around for a while, and sometimes people forget to do the basics. And I know that, back in the days where I taught business classes at a college, the thing that business owners seem to really struggle with is they seem to do pretty well identifying the strengths, weaknesses,
and even opportunities, but really struggled with the threats. So give me some examples of, what is a threat and why is it important to know? And, we'll go through each one, like maybe you giving an example, but that just kind of popped to me thinking about that and thinking about the business people that I coach too, that the threat piece sometimes is a real blindside.
So what a threat is, and it's in a way, it's the same information you would put in the critical risk section of your business plan. And that's something business owners don't want to think about because they're like, oh, I don't want to be negative. It's not being negative, it's being prepared. And so the threat is really you sitting down and asking yourself, what could go wrong that I can't control? What could happen that would negatively impact me? For example, a new regulation. And I'll give you an example of this. Way back, it wasn't even a regulation, it was a change in the Google algorithm. There were a lot of SEO companies that had built their business around this link building strategy. And overnight, Google said, we're going to put more emphasis on content and less emphasis on links. And all of a sudden, their whole business model stopped working. And so that is, will a change in regulation? Will a change in software? What happens if a new competitor opens up down the street? What happens if my daughter works for Delta Faucet and they get a lot of their parts and supplies from China that they use in their manufacturing plants here? What happens if there's a global pandemic? Okay, that's a little extreme, but what the global pandemic did is it messed up the supply chain. What happens if a critical vendor goes out of business? What happens if a change in the law says you can't use a product or a service you've always used before? So it's all those things that potentially could radically change your business that you can't control.
Mm-hmm. It makes me think of some issues that I've seen in the past. And one pattern of thinking that I see is when a regulation changes, or let's say a vendor goes out of business, there's a real grieving process. And some business owners don't react fast enough. Like they'll spend too much time, being angry or bitter or even sad that they lost that. And they're not into, okay, well, I can't do anything about it. So what can I do, to replace that? And, this happened to my husband. We live in Colorado, and his business building that he had been in for over 7 years was sold because it was when, marijuana became legal and all these marijuana growers were paying top dollar for business property. Mm-hmm. And so he had 60 days to move his entire business, and there was very little commercial property available. And believe me, there was panic and there was grief and there was anger. And, I just said to him, I said, well, what are you going to do? Because none of those kinds of feelings are helping you make a decision, and he ended up, we found a place, and he's, been established there now for 5 years, and it worked out. But that's an example of something totally out of his control. It was actually a regulation that changed. Marijuana became legal, and it had this huge ripple effect on lots of businesses with commercial property. I've also seen, even service providers who recommend a product to somebody, and, as part of their package, they say, oh, you can source this here. And then all of a sudden that's not available anymore. And so, and you were talking about the SEO thing, and that made me think about GDPR. When that came about, that was a big change for online marketers. And the same thing with the VAT tax, and really affected digital marketers, people who were selling digital only with no personal service element, and people were scrambling to find the tools for that. So, so thank you so much for speaking to that. So let's kind of reverse engineer and go back to, the beginning.
Well, and before we do, I want to make one more point on the risks or the threats. And your examples were so good, because a lot of those, if you had been reading and really kind of following the regulation changes, you might not have been able to completely predict what was going to happen, but you could begin to anticipate. And so the very first thing that I think every business owner needs to do is get very tuned into what are the factors in the outside world that do impact their business and watch for those changes. Okay, now let's go back to this, the S in SWOT. The S is your strengths. It's the things that you do well. It's what makes you uniquely qualified to deliver your product and service and positive result for your customers. And so when you're looking at that in comparison to a potential threat, do that inventory and like, okay, well, I'm not using this right now, but I'm really good at X, Y, and Z. And if that happens, I can lean back on this. And your strengths may be your personal skills. It may be the brand and the reputation of the company you've built. If you have employees, it may be their strengths. When you're looking at your whole business, if your business is bigger than you, then look outside to all of those things. It may be your network. When I first started my business, I knew 57 people in the city of Indianapolis that I could talk to about my business. I had contacts all over the country, but I was looking to build a local agency. And I had 57 people, not 57 customers, just 57 people. And so that was a weakness. And so I set out to change that. And today, my network is one of my strengths, but it wasn't when I started.
Mm-hmm. I love that you mentioned that, because when I think about the network that I built over 14 years of doing this, people say, gosh, you must really scramble to find podcast guests. And it's no, I don't, because I've built great relationships and people are excited to come on board. And it's never an issue that, I wonder, well, where's my next guest going to come from? Like, I don't even have that thought in my head. So, and I don't even have the thought of how am I going to attract my guests because of this network that I built. So I love that you mentioned that, such a strength. It's also a strength when something like, people who had really developed networks did better during the pandemic than people who didn't. So, I mean, that's just a fact. So, all right. So that's the strength part. So what about the weakness?
So the weakness they may be gaps in your skill set. They may be things that you don't do well. And I think this is the thing business owners struggle with, because we are so busy selling ourselves as we're good at this, we can solve that. But sometimes you got to step back and you got to go, okay, I'm really good at this. I'm not good at this. And later, after you write it down, you can make a decision. Do I want to invest the energy to get better at it? Like my network, I had 57 people. I wanted to invest the energy to grow that. On the other hand, I'm not really good at serious techie coding. I build websites, but I build them mostly in WordPress. The reality is not being able to write and code in CSS or PHP, it's a weakness. But I made a specific decision. I was not going to get better at that. The way that I handled it is I hired somebody who was. And so identifying a weakness gives you a starting point to evaluate, is that going to be a problem? Does it matter? Do I need to address it or not?
Right. I see this sometimes when I'll have, a real like spiritual service provider type of client, and they'll say that they hate social media. And, I'm like, well, that's okay. You can find somebody to do it for you. And the thing is, and people could say, well, you don't have to be on social media, but I always liken it to, years ago when you had a phone book as a business owner, you would never say, I'm not going to be in the phone book. And so, so I think it's a weakness to not be on the major social media platforms. But if it's your weakness or your thing you don't enjoy, you can find somebody to do that. I also think that weaknesses can be you can be really good at some things and less good at others. So just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should do it. Maybe there's someone that you can pay $20 an hour to do something and your time is worth over $1,000 an hour. Why should you be doing that? And also maybe something that you do in an hour or two, someone else is so good at it that they do it in 10 minutes or 30 minutes. So I think that's important too. And the weaknesses, that it's not just like the glaring weaknesses. And I'm with you too. I don't do PHP or CSS coding. And that was a conscious decision years ago. And anytime, and I'm also a WordPress girl. I'm a lead pages and Kartra girl too. But what I find is, when the very few times where I am stuck, there's someone there that you can hire to get you unstuck. And so, yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. So opportunities.
So opportunities are things that are happening in the outside world that are just that. They create an opportunity for you. For example, we were way back in the day, when everybody else was doing link building SEO, we were a content shop. We were doing ghost blogs and using blogging software years before anybody else did it. And when we saw the changes coming with Google, I had always believed that if you stop trying to game the system and you write good content that answers people's questions, when somebody comes to your website, it's not enough for them to just come and leave. You want them to hang out. And so I saw the blog posts as an opportunity. As soon as Google changed their rules and content became more important, we identified the opportunity and started going to clients going, you really want to improve your SEO? Let's talk about content. And had we not had that skill, had we not gotten the experience with it, if that wasn't a strength, it would have been harder to take advantage of that change. So what was a threat for some of these companies who had built their business around link building was an opportunity for me. Sometimes it is a new product becomes an opportunity. Sometimes you get an offer for a partnership or a collaboration, and that becomes an opportunity. Sometimes it is another company going out of business, and the opportunity is for you to reach out to their clients and, identifying that opportunity and having a strategy for how you're going to take advantage of it. And something I really, I want to go back to kind of to reinforce your point on social media. If you choose not to be on social media, and that is a weakness, you need to have a plan to compensate. You are not going to get the traffic from social media, and if that's not where you want to be, but then do you have a plan to be at more networking events? If that plays to your strength, now your plan is, I'm going to get up and go networking every morning so I don't have to spend an hour on social media. Okay. If you're getting the results you need, bonus. But don't just dismiss something without saying, well, what am I going to do instead?
Mm-hmm. That's so wise. And I think too, there are some, like when I think of the millennial group, there's really kind of that conscious way of thinking that if you're not on Instagram, you don't have their respect. I mean, you could meet somebody in person, but I know so many millennial people, and I have some as clients and children, and and that they'll meet someone in person and then they'll go Google them, look at their Instagram, and see what's up. And so even if you don't plan on doing something on Instagram, have a presence, at least have a profile with, if you're trying to target people who that's where they hang out. If your people are not there, then Instagram might not matter. And I was a late comer to Instagram because I kind of didn't get it. Like when it first came out, I was a Twitter girl back in 2007. And I made, I had my first client in Singapore before I had a client in Colorado where I live. And so I credit Twitter for my being a global company. But now I'm not so much on Twitter. I'm still there. I still have a presence, but I devote more of my time to LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. And Instagram, again, it was kind of like, I don't really, I remember having the feeling, I don't really get it. You just go on there and look at pretty pictures. Mm-hmm. and now I have the most fun on Instagram. Like I have personal fun doing it. And then have been enjoying building that presence in my business. But the majority of, like I have 30,000 people who follow my Facebook business page, and I have a pretty substantial Facebook group. So, you don't have to have equal everywhere,
Yeah. Well, and so I got on Instagram personally because I love photographs. And so I was sharing my photos, and that was really my happy place. That was not for business. That was just my happy place. And what I've seen in the last couple of years is it's starting to, as you say, it's starting to come on where it really is much more of a business tool. The acquisition by Facebook clearly pushed it in that direction. And I've made a couple of attempts, and I recognize that that's not where I am best. And again, that's one of my weaknesses. I like Instagram. I enjoy the personal side of it. Where I've made a conscious decision is my target customers are not in that 35 and under typically. Now, as every year that Instagram is in existence and users are starting to get older and maturing, 2 to 3 years ago, I could say my customers weren't on Instagram. And now I think more of them are. And so I'm going to have to either adapt or accept that I have to work harder on LinkedIn and Facebook and other places to build the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know my mom is on Instagram. So then more people are coming on Instagram. But what I like about Instagram is the tone is still softer, even though it's businessy. It's not so over commercialized. It is in some ways, but yeah. So I had another thought too when you were talking about, one thing too that I see in, maybe you can tell me where you think this would be in the weakness or opportunity or where it would be. But a lot of times, like I've been in business for 14 years. And so my people that I coach used to be like, I could almost count on, everyone was kind of in my age group. And as I'm 53, I now coach 35-year-olds who 14 years ago were 20 and not, like in my target. So I think it's important to realize when we make that shift where we're not, I still would say that, most of the people that I work with are between like 40 and 60 or older, but, people who are starting businesses as kind of like their second thing of what they really want to do when they grow up kind of thing. But I think people need to realize when that shift happens, when you aren't your demographic anymore.
Mm-hmm. So I think several things, and you that you have identified is that there is a new entrepreneur community that is in that 25 to 40 range. Okay. And so that's the opportunity. The question is, how are you going to make a plan to reach that community? How do you use your strengths and how do you overcome your weaknesses? So on the one hand, you're looking at your age and saying, well, that's not really my community. But one of the things that takes that weakness and pushes it over into the strengths column is the experience. Mm-hmm. You can move, and so your messaging may change from being a coach and a peer advisor to being a mentor and not really a parent, but an experienced mentor. So you're more the mentor, and they're looking to you, and you adjust your marketing materials to embrace the experience and the time. At the same time, recognize that you have to stay dialed in and you have to stay connected, and you're going to have to work harder to stay in touch with the memes. And so that what's really in the center of the SWOT, and this is kind of, I think, probably where I'd love to kind of finish up, is it's great to identify your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats, but you ain't done at that point. This is where the work really starts, because now you have to start looking at, okay, there's an opportunity here. Can I take advantage? And what am I going to draw on? What do I have to change if I want to take advantage of this opportunity? What do I have to change in my messaging? What do I need to learn? What do I need to buy? What do I need to do to play here? And when looking at the potential threats, what do I have to beef up to protect myself? So even if that happens, that ain't a problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, I sure love your positive energy and all of your wisdom. So where can people find you? What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
So I really want to encourage everybody to check out the Digital Toolbox Club. It is an online learning community. There are resources. There are lots of free resources. There is a paid membership as well. We have webinars and workbooks, and really that's the best place to go. You can actually even access my podcast right from digitaltoolbox.club. And there is a contact form if you just got to talk to me.
I love that. And I hope people do, because you just, again, have such a way of being so clear. And I think that's a real gift of yours, a real strength of yours.
Thank you. Thank you.
So what are the one or two takeaways that you'd love people to have from this episode?
So the first thing is that you have to SWOT, and SWOT again. That if you're serious about your business, you should pull out that sheet of paper and work through this exercise once every 6 months, just to kind of address what's going on, look at the progress you're making, because the world changes. I mean, honestly, any of us who were running businesses in 2020, we had the rug pulled out from under us. We had our world rearranged. And if you're not assessing and reassessing, you were left in the dirt. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is that, again, it's not enough to just list all 4 things. You got to figure out how to create an action plan from that analysis.
Mm-hmm. And I know you have a free gift for people too. So can you tell us about that?
So I actually have a little workbook that steps you through this, and we'll have a link. It's on the Digital Toolbox. I think the page is digitaltoolbox.club/SWOT. And if you just search on for the word SWOT, that download will show up. And it's just a handy little reference tool that kind of reminds you of what should I be thinking? How should I be organizing the information?
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. And I want to wish everyone a wonderful day, a good night, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I love you, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.